What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Sawdust Talk. Let's go! We've got an insane episode coming up for you guys. Big thank you to Uncharted Customs for joining, and there he is, man of the hour. Let's get him in here. Right, how you doing? Let's get you guys in. It's so weird talking to myself. All right, Ryan, what's up, man?
What up?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. Sam, welcome to the show, man.
Going on?
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
What's going on, Sam? How you doing, buddy?
Good.
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem.
Absolutely.
Well, before we get started here, I just want to shout out to George Supply Co. I think every week we kind of always shout out to them, but I mean, big thanks to Scott for being a part of this channel and kind of helping support us and with these posters and all the support with our giveaways. So big thank you to him. I think they're up to 40 shops now, which is pretty cool. Maker shops, which is just awesome. So if you are interested, go check those out at George Supply Co. So
absolutely.
Now back to you, Sam, our guest, man. How are you? I mean, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get started in woodworking? Give us the lowdown.
Sure. It's probably a long one, but I mean, for me, this is really, if I think about it, I'm not even 2 full years into doing anything of this nature at all. So if we rewind it back to May of 2020, right when everybody was getting sent home from work and, saying, we'll see in a few weeks or whatever, a couple of weeks turned into a couple of years. But for me, I've always had a entrepreneurial mindset, like spirit. I've always tried to do different things, kind of always wanted to be my own boss, but I never really was. I've done a bunch of different things, some pretty weird stuff probably to most people, but it's just part of who I am. Well, anyway, kind of tie it all together. For the longest time, before May of 2020, I had been seeing advertisements for the Glowforge laser. That's kind of where this all started. And I kept thinking to myself, those are really cool. And I would research people that had them and what they were making. And I'm like, oh, that'd be fun, something to do on my own, just a little laser to make small things. And so I asked my wife, I was like, we should get a laser. And she said, no. She's like, no, not a chance. And so I kind of shut it down. And then when we all got sent home, and I was like, this is the opportunity. I'm like, listen, like, we've got the money, like, we're going to be at home. Let's just do something. We had, at the time, our daughter was just a few months old. And well, I guess she was almost a year old. But she was, still a baby. And so we didn't really have anything to do once she was asleep or whatnot. So we ended up pulling the trigger, and we put the Glowforge in our basement and just started making small things. And I was like, well, we can make some revenue off of this. And so I just made a page like on Facebook and Instagram and just put a few things out there, really small, tiny stuff, nothing compared to what I do now, and it had nothing to do with what the business is now. But it kind of just grew from there. One of your family members or friends says, hey, can you make this? And can you make that? And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And after a couple months, really, I started making little smaller signs, but signs for the most part. And that's kind of developed into what it is today. But it took off really quick. By the end of 2020, even before the end of 2020, I knew that I wanted to give it a shot. I said, I think I can make this the real deal. I think that I can make it sustainable. So I kind of told my wife probably in, it's probably October, that I wanted to quit my corporate job and do this full time. So I did. In December, I told him I was leaving. January 1st of 21, just went out to my garage for my first day of work by myself. And here we are. I mean, there's a lot of things different from just over a year ago, but that's kind of where it started.
That's incredible, man.
So it is full time now.
It is full time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I guess one part that I left out, I said I never did any type of anything like this before, but I also had never worked with tools, period, like for anything, anywhere. Like, yeah, I've used a drill and whatnot to, do things in my house, but never any type of saws or anything that I have now that I'm collecting. Never in my wildest dreams had I thought I would be using any of them.
That's insane, man. And so you got the Glowforge, and that was kind of your first big purchase. Which level of Glowforge did you get?
So there are 3 levels. I have the Plus, which is like the middle. The highest version is the Pro, which has like a pass-through slot, which at the time I really didn't know what I was doing, didn't really think I needed it, and I still have it. So it's pretty much served me pretty well for a couple of years, and I still use it all the time. So yeah, that's definitely what started, and it's kind of, created this snowball effect, because when someone said, can you make this? I was like, yeah, I could probably do that, but I'm going to need this tool. I'm going to need to learn how to use it. And so then I'd go buy it. And then I would use the money that I made from making that project to buy the next tool. And I kind of just kept rolling it into the business. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I got my eye on a Glowforge too. I'm not quite to that level yet, but I could dream, right? And
yeah,
I told the same question. I asked my wife, "Can I get one?" She said, "No." I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, it's a huge investment. $4,000, that's a lot of money.
it is.
It's
Yeah.
for me as a hobby, but you
Yeah.
seem to be killing it. I like that.
Yeah. And it was one of those things that, like I said, my wife and I both had our full-time jobs, but we were working from home. And so I was still getting the steady stream of income, and we had the extra money to do it. So it was kind of one of those things where I was able to feed my entrepreneurial spirit at the time while I was still getting a full-time paycheck, and it kind of turned into what it is now. So
That's awesome, man. No, I honestly just picked up a Pegasus scroll saw, and I'm stoked for it, man. It's
nice.
definitely not quite a Glowforge, but it'll be fun. So
Yeah, I mean, I have a scroll saw, I have the laser, I have a CNC, I've got power tools behind me. It's just kind of all one thing at a time, and there's always something new that I'm like, well, I need one of those now. Even though I don't know how to use it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, so that was kind of going off on one of the questions I had was, what do you use to make your signs? So you use pretty much your Glowforge and your scroll saw and your CNC, everything? Just depends on what
So
size?
for the most part, I will use the laser and the CNC just about every sign. The scroll saw I don't use as much anymore. I get that out, one, for emergencies, because I have had one of those before where the technology just doesn't work, or it shuts down on you in the middle of something and you need it. I'll get it out for that. Or if sometimes the CNC, because the bits are obviously round, they will round an edge instead of get like an inside point. I'll get that out and kind of cut my points out. But I don't use that as much anymore. I did. That's kind of where the sign started. Stuff that was too big for the laser originally. As I got the scroll saw, and I've cut 4-foot wide pieces on the scroll saw before, which is not fun. But I've done it. But yeah, for the most part, all my detail pieces are cut on the laser, and then the big or thicker pieces are definitely cut out on the CNC.
that's awesome, man.
And kind of going off that, how'd you come up with the name? Come up with Uncharted Customs?
Yeah, so I originally, there may be somebody watching out there. Originally, I just threw a name out there, and it was called Craft Lab, and so that's what my original name was. So if you scroll all the way back on my IG, it's like the first post, and because my wife and I were like, oh, we'll just make little crafts, and I was trying to be clever, and it was generic and whatever. So when I knew I was going to go full time, I wanted to actually get some type of brand that was me, that was also a little more broad. I didn't want to pigeonhole myself in any type of name with something specific, whether because I make signs. I don't really know where this is going. So I stuck, the last part is customs because I feel like I'll always do custom work, but one day if I decide to build a table, which I have no experience doing, but if I do, it still fits. I can still make custom pieces.
Right.
But the Uncharted part is, for me, I'm all about exploring the unknown, I guess. I'm kind of fearless, I guess, when it comes to trying new things. And that's what I want to share with other people. And what I try to do on an almost daily basis is to just push your limits, go places you've never been, try things you've never tried, and you never know where it might take you. Because for me, I named it Uncharted because this was completely new. Like I told you, I never had any experience doing this, but I dove in, ended up loving it, and here I am self-employed. So to me, it's just, the saying of like uncharted waters. You don't know where you're going, but just go and you'll find your way.
I love it. I love it.
That's incredible, man. That's admirable. That you could take that leap of faith and kind of turn it in what you have done. That's really cool, man. You kind of mentioned, your craft labs, right? What was your first projects that you put out?
The first things I ever made on the Glowforge were like little keychains or little wooden puzzles, like little engravings, some acrylic stuff. I used to do some acrylic stuff. I've pretty much gotten rid of all my acrylic just because I like doing what I'm doing now, and it just wasn't really serving me. But I did have like an Etsy with like custom keychains and things like that with acrylic and wood. But it was just, it didn't make sense to put my time there because the money wasn't as good there as it is with other things. And so when I went full time, I had to kind of adjust and do what was going to not only fulfill me, but also fulfill financially. So
for sure. Do you still have an Etsy page?
Well, technically it's still there, but it's closed. So
yeah, gotcha. Nice.
So how busy are you staying right now with signs? Like, are you booked, a couple months out or?
So that's kind of the hard question. So I don't want to say a time period, and I don't ever really give a time period. I give quite a big range because I don't really know what's going to happen. Sometimes things get in the way. And so I try to be pretty broad, but in general, I'm several weeks out. Right now, I'm running into a lot of, I have all of the verbals and none of the deposits in place. So I'm in a pretty long, there's a pretty long line of people if they were all paid. I'll put it that way. And that's one thing that I would say that is kind of a downside of being the only guy and being the only person is trying to reach back out to people, because you've done all of the legwork, you've got them all their quotes, they've all agreed to it, they've got it in their inbox. But yeah, in general, tomorrow, if half those people paid, I could be out for a very long time. If they don't, it just kind of depends. So I make everything based on when I receive someone's deposit.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where they get in line.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you wondering, this is kind of an example of your signs. I ordered one a while ago, and man, it's amazing. So I kind of just want to go off of that. Like, how did you get this layering style? Because it's really cool. It's really cool, and it's unique. I think, I don't know if you can see that, but the layers of this are so cool.
Yeah. So again, no real experience. It's kind of one of those things when I started doing it, and I still do it every time I get someone's, logo or business or whatever, I will just start thinking, because I'm not, as far as artistic goes, I can't draw to save my life. No chance. I'm a little bit better with computers. I can handle a computer pretty well, but still drawing in it, not my thing. So I pretty much do it up here. And try to break it down into the layers. And there's always a lot of ways you can do it, especially something like that Manchester United sign, where there are so many different dimensions. It could have been built several different ways. And I try to just think of what I think would look best, and I play around with it Then I break it down into layers on my computer. But there's really no, I guess, one way to do it, I guess, that I would say. It just depends on how complicated a sign is. I always go with, one solid color for the background or the border or whatever it is, and then kind of just build up from there. So with different colors, how, it's going to look. I want everything to kind of pop at you three-dimensionally. So if you think of it as a different piece, I want it to kind of come out. So yeah, it's there's no real rhyme or reason. It's just kind of whatever I come up with.
No, that's awesome, man. Like I said, that's my favorite sign ever, and I
I love
appreciate you
seeing
making
it. I
that
love
part of
seeing
me,
it on
and
all your videos.
It's so sick.
What was I going to ask you? Okay, so your favorite, I'm kind of going to put you on the spot. Your favorite sign you've done so far? Do you have a certain favorite project?
I feel like the last one I make is like almost always my favorite. Almost because I always feel like I've done the last one better than the one before. Now I've had a few favorites for sure. I just started recently doing more fading of paints, some ombre type of stuff, which I had never dove into before. The very first one I did was a big, it's rather simple, but it's just a big giant M. It's well, actually, it's from Maryville University, so you're pretty close down there in St. Louis. So it's in their lacrosse locker room, and they kind of have a faded M logo. So that was kind of the very first time I ever attempted that, and it turned out really well. It's got some LED lights in the back of it. So the ones that I'm doing the fading on are right now my favorite, just because I feel like I'm gaining a new skill. I'm getting better at it. But one of the biggest project, I guess, not necessarily the most in-depth sign, but the biggest project I've ever had was 100 of the same sign for a minor league baseball team in Florida. And I did that last year before the end of the baseball season. So that was really cool to be able to do. They were rather simple. They were home plates with their logo on them, and then there was a team picture slotted in the middle, but it was plaques that they gave to all of their team sponsors, and they engraved it on there. Team sponsor or whatever it was. So that was a really cool one to do.
That's awesome, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
I also really like your glasses one with the mountains in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one right there. Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorites that you've done for sure.
Yeah, so that one kind of combines the carving into and then also the stack on top of, which is a pretty unique thing to do in my opinion too. So not a lot of people go in and up. So
yeah, no, that's really cool, man. What's next for you? What's coming up? Any insight into that?
As far as projects, I mean, I'm doing a lot of business logos now. It's really shifted in the last several months. From I was doing a lot of stuff for people's houses or just personal stuff. And then I had a few videos that got a lot of views on Instagram, and it ended up being a lot of businesses. And so I've been doing a lot of business logos lately. So that's really fun. I also just got a fiber laser, which I'm trying to learn. So that's the newest tool in here. I was actually messing around with it tonight, trying to get a tumbler engraved for the first time. I haven't quite got there, but I think I'm almost there. So that's kind of my next thing that I'm trying out.
And I guess there was a question about, do you ever worry about copyright at all?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was doing a lot of the sports logos, yes and no. For the most part, what I've found, and because that's kind of where I started, was doing just everybody in their house wanted their own sports logo in their man cave or whatever. I found that really the professional sports pretty much leave everyone alone. I haven't personally heard anything from any of them. I mean, they could go after you if they wanted to, and it could just be over. The one area that I would say is the big avoid, or at least don't post about it or tag them or whatever, would be college sports. College sports some of them will go after you. But I will say, early on, I was making pieces. Obviously I didn't know what I was doing, or I was just tagging because I thought it was cool. I had one university like put my work on their Instagram page. So it just kind of depends on who you get, I guess. So I know there's some bigger schools out there like Ohio State, Notre Dame, places like that are just like super protective of their brand. They've got people employed to look for those things. So that would just kind of be my advice. Now that I've moved a lot more toward the business signs, I don't really worry about it too much, but I never had anything bad happen to me. But I have heard of other people getting, their page shut off or things deleted, which I do think I've had one post deleted off of Instagram ever, and maybe one off of Facebook because somebody said you can't have that. So
That's crazy. So kind of on that note, someone asked earlier, and I missed who it was, but they're asking about how to grow on Instagram. What's your advice there? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so like I said, about coming up on 2 years here in May that I created the original Instagram. And what you don't know, you don't know. And I've just kind of learned over time. But what I've found the most beneficial, I guess, is just connecting with other people. It's not always putting out a video every single day. It's not always using the perfect hashtags. It's not always, following the trend. Now, those things do work sometimes, but when everybody does the same thing, not everybody is going to grow. So it's all about the connections. For me, for the longest time, before I even got an account as big as I have now, it was just talking to other people. And in this sense, it was mostly to other makers. For the longest time, Instagram had nothing to do with the actual business for me. It was a place for me to have a gallery, but it wasn't really generating revenue. I got a lot more of my revenue locally off of Facebook pages and things like that, where things have started to shift now. But for the longest time, I was just following other makers, talking to them, interacting with their posts, seeing what they do. And that's how I've learned a lot of the things that I know is from other people, because I had no knowledge in this whatsoever. And, just connecting with other people. And I always talk back to everyone that messages me. I try to be as genuine as possible, help as many people as possible. And I think that also helps because I was just like that. And anybody else that's starting that wants to do what I'm doing or something similar, I want to help them get there because, that's just kind of giving back to the community that you were built on. So for me, it's all about connecting with people, not necessarily all the posting. Although, if you're trying to grow now, I think everybody knows Reels is the way to really go viral. And so in that case, you can get lucky. I would say, gotten lucky a few times to get some more growth. But before that even, I was growing at a decent pace just by sharing my experiences day to day.
Right.
That's awesome, man.
And so that's kind of what I use my Instagram for is, just like a gallery, because for me, it's a hobby, But I seen another question kind of going off of what you just said. What other sign makers are you inspired by? Do you have certain ones that you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them out there. I would hate to leave somebody out because I talk to so many people and get information from so many people. I will say from the very beginning, I started following Dave Taylor. Everybody knows of Dave. He is kind of the person that I talked to when I first started, who was, showing everyone how to paint. And since then, I've kind of developed my own painting. I use my own different paints now. But if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't be here doing what I'm doing, or at least I wouldn't have accelerated as fast as I did. Of course, I had to put in the work myself, but he was super integral to getting me started, and I'll always give him the credit for that. But there's all kinds of other people out there. Pa over at Touch My Woodworks is one of my I guess, best friends on the internet, I would say. We were just at Workbench Con in February, and met a lot of other people that I am internet friends with for the first time. So that was a lot of fun. But there's honestly too many to name. I don't want to leave too many people out, but there's a lot of people that have inspired me for sure.
Is there a certain software that you use to make your designs?
Yeah, so I do all of my work in Inkscape. It's a free program, similar to, I would think, Illustrator. I had never, again, used any sort of design program before, so completely self-taught on that as well. I'm pretty decent with it now, but as a free program, it's not something that's taught for the most part. It's kind of something you got to figure out on your own. So I would say on that one, I have at least a minor from YouTube University in Inkscape that I did a lot of work there. But I'm also, teaching other people that kind of stuff now. So I've done a few Zoom calls with other makers, teaching them how to use it. And, I think it's a good program as long as you don't need to get too sophisticated. If you're just making SVG files for your laser or your CNC, I think it's a perfect program, and it's fairly easy to use. It can somewhat be time consuming depending on what you're doing, but if you don't need something too complicated, a few clicks away and you'll be off.
So have you ever done like a class on that, or just like held the class for other makers, or do you just do like Zoom calls?
I haven't done a class. It's something that I have thought about doing.
Yeah.
I've done a few Zooms, maybe 4 or 5, where I just have sat down with them and kind of shared my screen and kind of taught back and forth of what they were doing or helped with specific projects. And I have thought about doing some of those classes here in the future. It's kind of one of those things that I'm thinking about as I kind of steer the direction of my business. I want to do some more teaching because I do enjoy that. I just need to carve out the time and make sure I'm kind of putting my time in the right places to make sure that everything runs smoothly first.
For sure. Do you use a separate program for the CNC side of things, or?
So everything would be designed. So the laser and the CNC both take the SVG file. So as far as the Glowforge goes, you kind of just upload it. Glowforge is cloud-based, so they have an app online that you would just load it into, and then there's a camera in the Glowforge, and you can kind of move it around. For the CNC, you would upload the SVG into another program. In that case, I'm currently using Easel Pro. There's a lot of those out there. There's some programs by Vectric that are really, really intense that I hope to get to one day, but right now it's pretty basic. But you do need to upload your SVGs into another program that will give you what's called a G code that you can upload into the CNC for its language. But it all starts as the SVG in Inkscape, and then for the CNC, there's that extra step. So currently using and have always used Easel. It's pretty simple.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And so something that's been intriguing me for the last couple of weeks, and I see that you use it a lot, is I guess your paints, or I consider them spray paints.
Yeah.
The 94s and the hardcores. Yeah. I see more and more of them on Instagram daily.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for the longest time, I used Rust-Oleum or Krylon or whatever was on the shelf at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. Whatever I could find the closest color to what I needed. Because that's kind of what I was taught. As I mentioned, Dave kind of introduced me to all this, and that's what he uses. And so I was using all of those things and following the steps that he took, and great results. No, don't get me wrong. But I have found that, especially in the climate that I'm in Central Illinois, which is just crazy weather all the time. The seasons change like that. One day it's 70, the next day it's 30. That being able to paint consistently for me wasn't working with those types of paints, even though I used them for the longest time. Because those paints that you get at your box stores or your home improvements are oil based, temperature and humidity affect them like crazy. Oil and water don't mix, so humidity with moisture in the air spraying, if it doesn't mix right, you're going to be sanding and scraping and getting that kind of stuff off of there. So when I was kind of introduced to graffiti paint at the time, I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew it was more expensive, and but I gave it a try. And the first one I tried was Montana Cans, which is Montana Gold. And I can get to that in a second. They're two separate companies. But anyway, I tried that, and it just kind of changed the game for me. It's an acrylic base, so it's not affected really by the weather. Those kind of paints are formulated to literally be painted on canvases outdoors, like, buildings. So it's not really affected by the weather. It dries in minutes, not hours or days. It's just completely different. Now, what you do get with those Rust-Oleums or the things that you buy in the store, that oil-based, you can get a high gloss sheen. And the graffiti paints are matte. They are matte finish, so you're getting a completely different look. They do have a gloss line. All these different places do have gloss lines. It's not the same sheen, I will say that. So if you're looking for a high gloss sheen, you're gonna have to use that oil base if that's what you want to get out of your projects. And like I said, that's fine, but it's just going to maybe cause you more problems. And for me, I would paint a whole sign that has 72 pieces and 6 of them would be bad. And so then I would have to stop in the middle, redo the 6 pieces, hope those came out okay the next day in order to get it glued up. And when they became, full time for me and really got going, time is everything. So making that switch. And then I found, actually I'm sitting next to my rack. So then I found the MTN 94, which is Montana Colors, which is a totally different paint company. And I just like how it sprays better. So that's what I go with now. I mean, I've got the one color rack right here. And then I have a whole nother rack of black and white and gray and stuff like that.
Oh, no kidding.
That one is over there.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So how many spray cans do you have on hand at any time?
Well, I have some that are not on the rack as well. I'm probably at least 200-ish cans
gosh.
of paint in here. It's kind of been my collection now. I kind of just, every time I need to order more paint of colors I use all the time, I'll always order like 4 or 5 new colors that I've never used before, just so I can have them know exactly what they're going to spray like. And so if the time comes when I need it, I have it, and I can kind of just compare shades. But as far as the 2 Montanas go, so we've got the Montana Cans and Montana Colors. And I just actually put this in my stories today. There's a lot of confusion of that because there are 2 graffiti paint companies, both called Montana. They are not the same. They are made in different countries, and they're different. They are both graffiti paint and they're both matte, but they are separate. So if you see a Montana Gold Black can, Montana Cans, one company that I believe is
German,
and then Montana Colors is Spanish. So completely different.
I watched your video today. So yeah. And so what's crazy is you made that video too, and then I guess is her name Morgan?
Yeah, Morgan Captain Flex.
Yep. She's big into that paint too, and I follow her a lot, and she explained the difference between the 2 companies also.
Yeah.
Well,
Morgan is the one that turned me on to MTN's primer, which I now use for almost all of my detail stuff, which I hadn't used before, but ever since she recommended it, I don't use anything else.
So like price wise, like a can of Rust-Oleum, you know, compared to a can of 94, what's the price difference roughly?
So I guess it's going to vary a little bit where you get it from, but let's call a Rust-Oleum $4.55, something like that, for a regular can. The MTN 94 is $7, so it's a couple bucks more. I buy all mine at Spray Planet. They're in California, but they're like the biggest distributor of it, at least in the United States. There are a lot of other graffiti paints out there. I know a lot of the Canadian people will use Dang or the Molotov. I know that's more readily available for them. So if anybody watching is trying to get into graffiti paint, look at those. I've never used them, but everyone there kind of seems to swear by those as well. And I think they're kind of all the same. They get you the same result. They all kind of just spray a little bit different. There's some high pressure cans, low pressure cans, and that has a lot to do with graffiti art that I don't understand. They have, each one of these has, I don't know if I have it, I've got a bag of different spray tips that go on here that I've just tried out. They probably have 15 different ones for just one can that you can get, you know, different sprays. So there's a lot that goes into it. I've kind of found the one that I like, and I kind of just go with it. But yeah, it's kind of a whole new world, but it's kind of changed my world because for the most part, it comes out great the first time, and it saves me a lot of time. Even though I'm putting a little bit more money up front, it's worth it in the amount of time that I save. And I think the quality that I'm able to put out, I think it looks better. And another big thing that I love about it is if something doesn't necessarily look right, or maybe you didn't get a good enough coverage, you know, even the next day, just spray right over it. It covers itself. It doesn't bubble. It doesn't, you know, wrinkle, anything like that. So
that's awesome.
Pretty good stuff. Yeah.
Do you have any particular tips for anybody who's getting into spray painting their work?
I would say the number one thing that I get asked about when painting is how to get it so smooth. It comes down to everything you do before painting. It's sanding and priming. If it's not sanded flat, it's not going to paint flat. If it's not primed all the way, it's not going to stick, especially with MDF, which is pretty much what I use exclusively for my signs. Now I will get into some other stuff if I'm doing staining and things like that. But for anything painted, using MDF, and MDF will just soak up the paint if it is not properly sealed. So sanding, number one, and then primer, number two, to get your coverage. What I do is I sand everything down. Now I usually do everything to about a 320 grit at least. And then I will prime it. Then we will sand again. With the MTN primer, I find that you really don't need to prime a second time unless you really take it all the way off. But if you're using something like a filler primer, then usually prime it, sand it, and then give it another coat of primer to make sure it's fully covered. But after that primer, especially with the graffiti paint, it should go on really, really smooth. The painting is actually, I would say, the easier part than getting the piece prepped to paint.
Awesome. That's cool.
So it's a lot of sanding. A lot of sanding.
A lot of sanding. It's terrible.
So is graffiti paint pretty much, is it water based or is it still oil based?
Yeah, it's acrylic based, so it's water. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to stuff we were using in Guatemala. You know, we always use oil based paint, but since it was so hot and humid there, we were using water based paint, and it was so much better. And
yeah,
it's a lot easier to clean up too.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I got another question for you. What kind of material do you like to use most? MDF, plywood, etc. So obviously you said MDF.
Yeah, MDF is what I use mostly. Anything that I'm painting, I will do some different things for people that if they want a wood grain look. If I'm doing something of that nature and it's, you know, a big piece, a big sign that needs something, I'll use birch for the most part. Birch plywood. I have done a few hardwood things, but that's not really my expertise. I've done one really, really nice it was a Unity puzzle for someone's wedding last summer that I did in all hardwoods. But that's really kind of my extent of that. I'm getting ready to do another one for another wedding here soon. But for the most part, MDF, birch plywood, and then kind of depending as well. I've done some carves in some pine and some different things, but for the most part, it's just MDF.
That's awesome. Question from Olivia's design company. What brand CNC do you have or you use?
I have the Onefinity. I've never had anything else. I get questions all the time of people asking me, which machine is better. And I'll give it to you straight. I've only had one, so I can't really compare it to anything else. But from everything I've heard from other people that have owned other machines, it's kind of been a class of its own. As far as what I would consider probably a hobby machine, not something big and industrial. I mean, they can get super big. But for something that's this size and that price range, the Onefinity kind of, in my opinion, having only used it, would kind of blow the other ones out of the water. It's all ball and screw. That's how it moves it. There's no belts. There's no real, maintenance that you have to keep up on it other than keeping the rails oiled. It's great. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it. It's sturdy. They are an innovative company. They are always making new accessories, new things to go with it. It's not like they made a machine and that's what they do and they're satisfied with it. That's what I like about it most. But I actually, so it would have been, had it for about 1.5 years. But when I ordered it, I pre-ordered it. So Onefinity has existed as a company less than I have. So I pre-ordered it and I got it 6 months later. So I've had it for about 14 months now, maybe, and ordered it almost 2 years ago. So they are still going through that process. Even a couple years later, they are still out. They don't have inventory. They're still working on building those machines of people that just continue to order. So it's a very sought after machine. If it's something that you want, be prepared to wait a few weeks, but I would say it's totally worth it. Even if you look at another one and say, I can get that in a week, or I can get this in 2 months, my opinion would be to go with this one. Originally, my cutting area was 32 by 32. Since then, they created a new rail, so I actually have a 4 foot wide by 32 now. So 48 by 32, I just purchased the new rail and took the old one off and put the new one on and sent the old one back to them and upgraded. So that's what I really like about them, is that they're just constantly innovating, and they have all kinds of different accessories that I don't have all of, but I'm sure they're just only going to continue from there.
So
That sounds great.
So are you affiliated with any of those companies at all?
No. Well, with Onefinity, they currently don't need it. I've asked them about it, honestly, if I could do some different things for them, and they don't need it. I know they do have a couple people that were there from the get-go that were promoting it before they were even producing them, and they've had a few people since then, but they don't really need a whole lot of that because the sales keep coming, the lines keep forming, and I think it kind of speaks for itself. I'll still continue to talk about it. I don't need to be necessarily affiliated with them for any reason, because I love it and I want other people to get that out of it. With the Glowforge, I wouldn't call it affiliated. I do have an affiliate link for people that want to purchase them, that I can get a discount to them. And I've done that. And I offer for everyone out there that wants to get one, and they use my link or not, I'm always here to help you. But I always offer, when that machine comes in and you have any questions, just reach out to me. I'm kind of that support system that you can have immediately instead of trying to reach out to them directly and wait and whatnot. I can kind of give you a direct response, and I can also show you exactly what I'm looking at, what you're looking at. And so I do that for everyone. I've helped them generate some sales. And then the fiber laser that I just got. Now that would be kind of my first, I would say, bigger affiliation. That's with a company called Monport. It's a Chinese laser company, just like OM Tech, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. They are the exact same machines. There's literally nothing different about them. They come from the same factory in China. They put a different name on it. So the machine there, I am working with them. They are trying to get sales going in North America. They haven't previously been selling in North America previous to maybe a month ago or two. So I'm going to do some content for them on the fiber laser, but that's kind of really my first big partnership, I guess. I do work with a couple other smaller brands on different things, glues and tapes and things like that. But as far as big machines, that would be the first one.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool. Can't wait to see that content.
Yeah.
Any other big upgrades to the shop coming in the future?
I would like to get a bigger CO2 laser, bigger than the Glowforge.
Yeah.
That's definitely in the plans. I don't know when. It was kind of, now was supposed to be that time that I kind of set aside to do that. But then the fiber laser thing came, so kind of pushed it back a little bit. So maybe here in the next few months, but we'll see. It just kind of depends. One reason I wanted to get the bigger CO2 laser was not only to cut bigger pieces for my signs really quick, but also to do things on a rotary, like tumblers and things like that I can provide as a custom work. But now that I have the fiber laser, as soon as I learn it, I can do that on there. So the need for it got to push back just a little bit, but I still want one. It's still going to happen. Not sure exactly when, but that would be the next one. I've always also wanted a UV printer. I don't know. I just kind of always see different people doing different things, and I'm like, oh, I want one of those, or I can do that. And so I'm pretty confident by a couple of years from now, I'm just going to have all this stuff, and I'm not going to know what to do with myself. So that is kind of the plan moving forward. Probably CO2 laser, bigger one first, unless somebody comes along and wants to give me something, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's always a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Wobbly Arrow Signworks asked if you finally learned to measure in metric.
Yeah. Thanks, BA. Yeah, of course. I actually, funny enough, so what he's referring to, if for those that don't know, one of my videos that kind of took off was just a measuring trick, and trying to find center using the fractional on your non-metric tape measure, on your imperial tape measure, and using a diagonal, basic geometry. But anyway, it has like almost 12 million views, and I would bet 8 to 9 million of them are people from other countries that were just commenting, use the metric system, you're dumb, all kinds of stuff like that. More or less over and over and over and over for like almost 2 weeks straight.
Oh my God.
Every 3 minutes, someone would just say, use the metric system, you're an idiot, things like that. So that's probably what he's referring to. But when I got my fiber laser, in the little kit that came with it was a metric tape measure. So I'm proud to say I have one. I can use it.
That's amazing. And you said 12 million views?
I think it's almost up to 12 million. Yeah, it
my
still gets
God.
a few each day, but yeah, it ran to like 11 million in a couple weeks.
That's insane.
Mostly haters. Mostly haters. So.
Hey, well, guess what? The haters boosted it up. So thank you, haters.
They did. Oh, you get a chance. I'm not joking. Go back and look at it. I still get a few comments each day. It doesn't get played as much, but go look at it. I mean, you'll find it'll be 30 comments in a row that just say all kinds of stuff, but mostly use the metric system, or America is dumb, or just crazy stuff. Has nothing to do with me, but
A bunch of internet warriors.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So kind of going off like the internet warriors, have you been hacked yet or tried to be hacked yet? Because I know that's going around.
I don't think so. Now, there's only one time where Instagram has done me bad, I would say. So it was actually probably about a year ago from right now, right after I went full time. I got put in what I was at the time calling IG jail. I could log in. I was logged in. I couldn't like anything. I couldn't comment on anything. I couldn't post anything. Nothing. I could log in and I could see it. And if you messaged me, I could message you back. And it was that way, I think, for 10 days. I mean, and there was no reason. I just logged in one day and it says, you're suspended for, I don't even know what it is, like spamming or something. And I was like, what? Like, and it was in the middle of the day too when it kind of went off. It was like almost lunchtime and I checked my phone and all I did was log in and it's like, you're gone. And I was like, what? And there's literally no one you can talk to. It doesn't matter what you do. There's no Instagram support. There's no nothing. You can submit a ticket, which I'm pretty sure just goes out into space. No
never comes back. Yeah.
No. So I literally just sat there not knowing if I was ever going to have it again. And I could do stories too. So I was posting in my stories, but there was no physical posts for me going out on someone's feed. So I could just do stories and I could message people back, but nothing other than that. So I don't know what happened there. I don't think I was hacked, but something went wrong. Something went wrong. I will say, for anybody that has or may want to, really tighten up the security, definitely do two-step verification. It's in your settings. If someone does try to log in, you get a message to your phone and a text or an email or whatever you choose, and you can just say that's not me, and they'll be ejected. So definitely do that if you are concerned about it.
Yeah, because usually it's always based around giveaways from what I saw when I first started getting on Instagram, but now it's getting like really bad,
Yeah, people, another thing with giveaways too, you see a lot of, people just duplicating someone's account and saying, I'll send you whatever, or they'll follow you and you'll think it's the real person. Most of that is triggered by giveaways. When people put in their posts like hashtag giveaway, that's kind of like I don't know if they're bots or whatever that just create new accounts and pull your pictures or whatever, but they will do it. And that's the number one thing. So even when I've done giveaways, I've just kind of left that out because really it's not going to increase your traffic by putting hashtag giveaway. It's really not. The people that see it are going to see it, and they'll see what it is. So
yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, you don't use hashtag giveaway if you don't need to. I mean, your following will blow it up, right?
For sure.
So we've only got a couple minutes left here. Let's maybe do a couple quick this or that's, and then finish up with a giveaway real quick, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
IG likes to kick me off at like right at an hour, so I wanna make sure we wrap it up real quick. So, all right, Ryan, over to you, man, to kick us off.
Do you like Home Depot or Lowe's better?
Well, what if I throw you a curveball and I say Menards?
Well, hey.
I support that.
Yeah, because Menards is literally across the street. So, and I get 11%. It just keeps rolling over every time you buy something.
I mean, the place is awesome.
Yeah.
What's your favorite power tool, or like what brand are you? What brand?
Most of my power tools are Ryobi. I do have a DeWalt miter saw, and I do have a couple Milwaukee. But most everything like my drills and circular saw, things like that are all Ryobi, a circular orbital sander, things like that. Just because it's kind of what I started with, and all the batteries are compatible. So why change that? Those are expensive.
Absolutely.
Well, Scott said Ace Hardware, which we have a new one in Eureka, Scott, and it's pretty epic. It's got a lumber yard now, so it's right by the house. So that's probably where I'm gonna get my pine from.
Nice.
And so I mean, it wouldn't be Sawdust talk if I didn't ask you like the elephant in the room. Do you like hand tools or power tools?
Oh, definitely power tools. Yeah.
As much as you use your hands, I thought you were gonna say hand tools, and I was getting so excited.
No. It's got to be the power tools. Like I said, I didn't really use anything before, so I don't really have a ton of experience with a lot of the hand tools, but the power tools, man, convenience, quickness. Sometimes I really gotta just time is of the essence.
Right. One more question, I guess. Do you have a favorite hardwood that you like to use when you get into the hardwoods?
Yeah, haven't used it too much. The couple that I've used the few times would be probably walnut. It would be the favorite. I used some of it in the puzzle. I just like how it looks, and it gives a lot of contrast to a lot of the lighter woods. I used it with some hard oak and some maple, so it really just kind of switched things up as far as the color tone.
That's awesome. All right, let's wrap it up with a giveaway. And Sam, I don't know if you've ever been on one of these, but you're in charge of picking our number for our giveaway.
All right, let's do it.
So there's 34 people on here watching us live.
Okay.
So you pick number 1 through 34. Don't show it, and Ryan and I will kind of read off the comments as they go. So you write that number down.
Got it.
17.
You want me to write it down?
Yeah, write it down so
Okay.
we know.
Well, everybody's saying 17 again.
What 17 is going? Because
30.
17 was, yeah, it's a running joke on the show. So
32, 25,
22,
2, 25, 32, 24, 5, 3, 14, 13, 31, 17,
7,
28, 47, 15, 13. Jeff, you're fired. 27.
So when they say it, am I telling you?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
tell us whenever you hear
Okay.
it.
35, 2,
You feel free to give us any hints.
1,
Single digit.
5, 2, 34, 4, 1, 9, 12, 6, 9, 8,
I mean,
32,
7?
9, 4, 18,
Are we sure this is
8.
the number?
6,
I said it was a single digit.
7, 8,
Did you say? Maybe you said it. I missed it.
5.
It's 5.
Okay.
I think we've said it already. I'll
Okay,
scroll
well,
back
that's my
up.
bad then.
You're good, man. No worries. Sam, big thanks for being a part of the show, man. It was fun and great talking to you. Sorry
Yeah.
for keeping you up
Yeah,
so
thanks
late.
for having me.
Thanks, Sam, for joining us, man. It was a pleasure learning
Yeah.
all about the signs, the beautiful signs that you make.
I appreciate
Oh,
it.
Paul Real Woodpecker, you are the winner tonight. $20 to George Supply Co. coming your way. So support any of the makers. I don't know if you have a shop yourself, but if not, you should get one. And the rest of us, yeah. Big thanks, Sam, for joining. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks. I had a lot of fun too, guys.
All right. Well, take care, and thanks for joining, everyone. Have a good night.
Hey, guys.
All right. See ya.